Today I'm going to show you how to make your beats talk back to you instead of leaving you on red. Whenever you hear people talk about call and response, it's usually explained like a musical conversation, but I like to think of it more like setting up a craving. You get a little taste and then you're left wanting more. Think about the song Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. The first line, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, is the call, and then How I Wonder What You Are is the response. It's simple, but that back and forth is what keeps you hooked. So stick with me. I'm going to show you how to use this in a way that will make your beats unforgettable. First, visualize these 4 sections. Think of them like little rooms where different sounds are going to talk to each other. This is what I like to call the craving method, and I'll show you why. In room 1, you drop your call, a catchy little melody or lead. You see that? That's your first sentence. Room 2, leave it empty. Give your melody some room. Let it marinate for a second. Room 3 is your call again, but this time the listener's even more locked in. The listener's been hanging on, you teased them with the call, gave them a second to breathe, hit them with the call again, and now their ear is itching for that next move. This is finally where you satisfy that craving you've been building. You owe them something that feels earned. And finally, in room 4, you give the response. It's like when you're eating pizza. The first plain slice is fire. The second slice tastes fire, just like the first one. But now you're almost craving more. And just in time, you get hit with a pepperoni slice. It's like the upgrade you didn't even know you needed, and suddenly you're hooked even more. So yeah, I call this the craving method because it's like setting up the craving and then satisfying that craving at the right time. But here's the thing, that's just one method. I'm gonna show you a bunch of crazy ways you can use this idea to make your melodies stand out. And stick to the end because I'll even show you how to use it to spice up your drums. First, let's lay down the foundation. This is all about setting the mood. You don't just walk into a party and immediately start yelling your name. You gotta say something first. So here I'm gonna put down these chords, just a little something to make them listen. It doesn't necessarily need to be chords either, just some kind of atmosphere that leaves enough room to add more melodies on top. I'm gonna fill out the 4 different rooms with my voice. I know that's kind of crazy, but that's what's going on inside of my head as I'm listening through the chords and trying to think of melodies. Then you copy and paste it over here. And then you copy and paste it again, and then now's right, we're gonna change it a little bit. Put a little bit of delay on that, and it should already sound pretty good. Second way is the quick serve method. It's kind of like the craving method, but instead of making them wait, you just give them the good stuff right away. So the first melody is like the plain cheese slice. And just give them the pepperoni right away. Next up, we got the neighbor method. This is probably the most simple one. So this one, we leave room 1 empty, put your melody in room 2, leave room 3 empty, and then put the same melody in room 4, but just pitch it up an octave. Got our first melody right here. Silence, and then up an octave. When you play a melody in the lower octave, the listener gets familiar with it, and then boom, when it jumps up, it's way more brighter and in your face. It's like the melody's being yelled from upstairs. That's why I call it the neighbor method. That octave jump is kind of stamping the melody into your memory. Since your brain already heard it once, it just locks in way harder the second time. It can also sound really good if you pitch it down as well, though. I'll show you in the context of a beat what that would sound like. This is neighbor 1. Neighbor 1. He's yelling down like, yo, can you do the dishes down there? And he's like, yeah, I got you, man. I'll do the dishes. Really just 2 neighbors talking to each other, man. Here's an example of it going up. He's like, yo, what you got going on up there? Nothing, man. They can be really simple melodies too. Like your brain almost becomes less focused on the actual melody and more on the fact that they're talking to each other. This is called the art method. You build a little arpeggio that climbs the scale. That's your call. And then in the response, it climbs down. The arpeggio can be 4 notes long, 8 notes long, however many you want. Let's do 4 right here. Just make it kind of staircase up. Repeat that 4 times. It'll sound like this. And then repeat that, and then press Option Y, and it'll flip. You can even copy and paste all this, pitch all that up. The rules are pretty loose with this one. The main idea is that it climbs up and down. The climbing up is like your call, and the climbing down is like your response. I like doing it with plucks, but you can really choose whatever sound you want. Plus the midis usually just kind of look cool. The next method is what I call the cousin method. You start by building a simple call, maybe 2 or 3 notes. Let it repeat 3 times, and then change it a little bit on the 4th one. And look how that, I only changed 1 note right here. See, it's like these 3 are brothers, and then you bring in the cousin right here. It kind of leaves the listener like, yo, who's this guy? The cousin's still family, but you know, the brothers is just locked in. Like these are blood brothers right here. This is just the cousin. I'll do another melody. got the three brothers right here, cousin right here. Literally, it's all the same up to this point, and then just changing those couple of notes goes a long way. And it's just repeating the call, and then here's your response. Here's a kind of more complex example of it. You got your call, your response, call, response. Then we're gonna use the cousin method and just change one note over here. Next up, we got the coming home method. This one is about making your melody feel like it's coming back to home base. I also call this the bell method because it sounds really good with bells. Right here, we got a little melody MIDI from my Tumfology kit. And I'm gonna show you how I use the bell in here. All you can do is place a note at the end of room 2, and then place another note right at the beginning of room 3. And this is called a perfect fifth. As I'm listening, I'm kind of listening for dun, dun. It just always sounds good. When it lands on that dun, it's like we're home. If you really want to get swaggy, you can even delay when it gets home to make it feel a little offbeat, add a little swag. Just put it here. You could even put a crash, like when this one hits. That's just something I like to do in my beats. And then you can kind of like add a bunch of little accents in between that time when it's coming home, because your brain, when it hears that first bell, it's waiting for it to come home. So all the space in between there, you can kind of just float a bunch of random snares. Just having those two bells starts this whole little fun pocket. It's like, where'd you go? Oh, we're back. But I think it all starts with using that bell. It makes the melody way more predictable to create room to do more things that are unpredictable. So you can even move it back to the original spot, but now you still have that pocket in the drums, so it's pretty cool. It creates this cool little offbeat feel that kind of swaggers back into the loop. The beat's kind of bobbing and weaving. And the last one I want to show you is the ladder method, which is kind of similar in the way that it comes home like that. We'll use this same beat because I like how this is sounding. At the end of your loop, you create this little climb, just a few notes that walk up the scale. You can spread out the notes and do it however you want. So this is like your call right here. In this case, your call is at the end, and then your response is at the beginning. So we drag this right back here and do option Y again. Climb up the ladder at the end, and then climb down the ladder at the beginning. This is a really good transition trick. It makes everything feel kind of familiar musically and just super easy to follow what's going on. That walk up builds anticipation, and the walk down leads the listener straight back to the beginning. It's kind of comforting in a way. And obviously, keep experimenting with different sounds. I like doing this with the goat string from Groove Garden. Dun, 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 dun. Build up at the end, and then put it back to the beginning and reverse it. So it naturally goes from the end right back to the beginning. I think deleting some notes over here, huh? You can mess with the notes too. The notes that it climbs up don't always have to be the notes that you climb back down on. Just whatever sounds good. You could do it the opposite too, maybe. Like, stick around for these drums because I'm going to show you how to apply these same concepts. Make your drums talk to each other, you know what I mean? You got everything talking to each other. It's like your whole beat's its own little world. Here's a loop I made. I'm gonna go in the Groove Garden drum kit. It's common to start your beats with hi-hats. Instead of just using one hi-hat for the beat, I'm gonna grab 2 or 3, preferably at different pitches. I'm gonna mess around and experiment in this little step sequencer right here. Instead of just going, the idea is to delete some of these and use the other hi-hats and go back and forth from them. I just clicked that in randomly and it already made a bounce. Really think about how you want to do it. Starting from the top one, I wanted to go dun 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 dun. Dun, dun. These hi-hats are the call, and then that little is like the response. Then you can kind of just repeat that. This is where the open hats come out. You gotta have your hi-hats and your open hats speak to each other. And the magazine open hat. When this low hi-hat hits, I'm gonna kind of emphasize. I'm gonna put this little chant. And now this chant and this open hat are kind of talking to each other. So I'm going to actually delete this hi-hat. And by doing that, it emphasizes this chant right here. You see what I mean? And it's all about just creating those little pockets. The silence in between your drums is what really gives it the bounce. I think a lot of people view it like, here's your melody and you just smack drums on top. But you got to think of it like, here's your melody and here, how can you have the drums support that melody? So I kind of want to speed it up a little bit. I'm gonna go in Tumfy toolbox and grab the T-Rich. I really like putting emphasis in weird spots. It would be normal to do something like this. I like doing unorthodox stuff with my drums, so I'm gonna put emphasis in a weird spot with this cymbal. By just doing that, it still sounds a little weird. I think we can add some snares before that crash in order to support it and make sure that emphasis makes sense to the listener's brain. I'm gonna go in my Jexa drum kit for this Aero 808. The normal thing to do would be to leave this 808 here, but since we have that crash here, we can actually move this over to the left a little. It still feels a little weird. We got to keep adding a couple things or maybe chop up the melody to make sure that that little offbeat swag feels like a response. So in this case, it's kind of like working backwards. We know our response is that little So it's just a matter of how can we make the call worth responding to that way. A couple more snares might be good. And we can kind of fade these snares and goes. We'll leave it normal on the second half over here. I'm only gonna do this once because if you're doing this all the time where it's like that offbeat thing, it doesn't hit the same if it's always happening. Leave most of the beat normal like this. The only reason that this makes sense to your brain is because it's not happening all the time. Most of the time the beat sounds familiar with the drums hitting in the normal spots. It's about doing this at the right times and emphasizing it correctly so it makes sense to the listener. This is the same concept as earlier. This part is going to talk to this, but I'm going to switch. I'm going to have a different 808 for right here. So we'll just clone that 808 and I'm going to drag in like a funky one. Groove Garden's the 808 glitch, by the way, bro. 200 808s in there. Like you got so many to bounce back and forth from. I like this smother one. It's a little calmer. I'm going to pitch everything down. If you really want your 808s to speak, man, you just gotta get the oh yeah 808. The call is the and then the response is the boom. The call is all about saying, hi, I'm here. Emphasize this thing so that this thing hits even harder. You don't always have to have that snare going crazy. We can switch back to a normal snare pattern where the snare's just hitting like this. I'm gonna get rid of all the crashes and all that. And listen, these open hats are just gonna talk. Dun, 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 dun. Now the open hats are kind of like doing the salsa. This little back and forth helps the rhythm make sense even when it's offbeat or unexpected. It makes your drums feel alive. The most important thing here is to listen closer to your melody because you can have the melody do the call and the drum do the response. Like you can have a lead go da-na-na-na-na. I hope all this made sense. Maybe some of it you were like, what the heck's going on? If you even learned one little thing today, then I'm happy, man. I'm gonna end this off with some words of encouragement. So the Bible is really, there's a bunch of books within. What it says is, and this is Jesus talking. He said, I'm the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. And whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. So I'm like, dang, man, because I get hungry every day. And then a little bit later, he keeps talking and he says, I'm the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. This bread is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. Just as the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so the one who feeds on me will live because of me. So what I like about this, man, is you see I got my toaster right here because I like to eat sourdough bread in the morning. Jesus is the bread of life. Me personally, it's tempting to fill up my days with whether it's eating, scrolling on social media, just dopamine, man. And food, work, busyness, this, that, you know what I mean? At least I'm guilty of it, man. So I think that's like, in a sense, all those things are like worldly bread. We have to go to the bread of life. So it was encouraging to me that Jesus is the bread of life, man. We can go to him for rest. He will feed your soul. So don't get too caught up on getting that bread that you forget to get that bread. That's the bread we all need, man. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate you sticking around. I know your time is valuable. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you in the next one.